Shame. It is a twice, sometimes more a week show where we talk about movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
It's Andy. So earlier in the week, we talked about Rebel Without a Cause. And Andy wanted to follow that up with another movie. And what movie is that?
It is from the director that wrote Rebel Without a Crew, Mr. Robert Rodriguez. It's actually the film that he did right after El Mariachi. It's basically kind of his first Hollywood film, I guess.
Interesting.
It's called Roadracers, and it stars David Arquette and Salma Hayek. All right, came out, so Showtime, the Showtime cable network, back in the 90s, came out with a series of films that were all under the umbrella name Rebel Highway. And what they did was they took movies from the 1950s. Basically, most of the time, I think they would just take the title of the 1950s movie and make an all-new movie that also took place in the 1950s, but with just a different plot. So there actually is a 1959 movie called Roadracers, which I have never seen, and I don't think it shares any similarities really with the plot of this movie, Roadracers, but basically they took the title of 1959's Roadracers, slapped it onto 1994's Roadracers, and made a film about some greasers. Basically, David Arquette plays Dude in the movie. He likes to hot rod around town. The sheriff, Sarge, is played by William Sadler, who was Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, I think. And he's trying to catch David Arquette the entire movie. Also, Sarge's son, Teddy's sadistic ass, is after Dude the entire movie. Dude just wants to hang out with his girlfriend, Donna, played by Salma Hayek, and his best friend, Nixer, played by John Hawkes. They want to listen to their rockabilly music, hang out, smoke cigarettes, eat at the local diner. Nixer in particular wants to watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers over, he claims he's seen it, he's 50 times or whatever, but he wants to watch that movie over and over and over. But it's basically just kind of almost like a hangout movie that takes place in the 1950s. Doesn't really share a lot of similarities with Rebel Without a Cause, but it's another kind of 50s movie, although it was made in 1994. I actually did see this movie, not on Showtime, but I think there was a VHS release of this movie back in the 90s that I saw, or maybe I saw it on DVD, I can't remember, but it is out on Blu-ray now, and it includes a 10-minute film school like Robert Rodriguez likes to do about the making of this film. And interestingly, it was not shot in his beloved Austin, Texas. It was actually shot in California.
Interesting.
So you've not ever seen Roadracers before?
Never seen it, never heard of it.
Never seen of it, never heard of it. We like to do that on the show, like to spring some surprises on you. So, what were your thoughts about Roadracers?
I think at the end of the day, I'm not a big fan of this movie. It does feel like a very TV movie. It feels very low budget to me. Mm-hmm. It feels kind of like a fever dream a little bit. It doesn't feel like it makes a whole lot of sense, and just everything's kind of happening, and you're grasping at strands and trying to piece it all together the whole time. At least that's how I felt kind of watching it. And I think it kind of peters out really quick, and then the last, third of the movie, maybe half the movie, was just long, and I just was waiting for the movie to kind of end, And I'm really, I don't want to say disappointed, but it just kind of sucks that Robert Rodriguez directed this, because he's a director that I hold in high esteem and high regard, and I just really feel like I do see his fingerprints on it, especially with the cutting, but it's just I just don't think it's up to the snuff on some of the other stuff he's directed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of my overall thoughts. What'd you think about it overall?
So when I got done watching the movie, I watched the making of the 10-minute film school. That's more interesting than anything that happens in this movie. I'm in complete agreement with you. I think this movie is very sloppy. It's very choppy. It kind of meanders. Yeah. I agree. You can see Robert Rodriguez's fingerprints on it. There is a lot of ADD cutting. Yeah. in the movie, which I don't think I've necessarily noticed as much as I have in this movie. It's all over the place. Like, two characters could be having a conversation and the camera cuts 50 times for no real reason whatsoever. I'm thinking in particular of the scene where William Sadler is weirdly pulling out little pigs in a blanket from his pocket.
He has like 4 of them.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even like wrap them in a napkin.
No. And he's handing them to his partner to eat. He's like, you try that. You eat that or whatever. I'd be like, I'm not eating that. You should have put that in foil or saran wrap or something. Yeah, it's got pocket lint on it. Right. I mean, it's ridiculous. But no, I feel like, and again, when I watched the 10-minute film school and he discusses them making it, and there's a lot of behind the scenes footage, that to me was really kind of fascinating and interesting because Robert Rodriguez, as you said, he's a guy that we both really like. Obviously, we kind of gushed over him when we did Sin City. He's a talented filmmaker. He's a talented guy. I think if somebody was born to do films, or at least entertaining films, this guy was made to do it. And he's never made anything that's going to be, Citizen Kane or something like that. But he makes fun, enjoyable films for the most part. And honestly, I don't know if it's because this was a film early on in his career, because I think El Mariachi's great.
I think this film, I think they're different like
right. It's
fields
way better
or ballparks or whatever
than Roadracers is. Yeah, but I'm in complete lockstep agreement with you. I just don't think this movie really goes anywhere. I hadn't seen it since I saw it originally back in the 90s or whenever I saw it on DVD or VHS, whichever format. Who cares? But I think back then I liked it because I found it kind of cool that I knew about this Robert Rodriguez movie, because he had done From Dusk Till Dawn. By the time I saw this movie, he hadn't done From Dusk Till Dawn before Roadracers, he did it after. But I had already seen From Dusk Till Dawn and, El Mariachi and Desperado and stuff like that. And then I discovered Roadracers, so I knew about this movie that not everybody knew about. I knew about this Robert Rodriguez movie, so I just thought it was cool based on that. And I feel like maybe if you're sitting there on a Saturday afternoon and you're bored and you're watching Showtime and Roadracers comes on, you might have fun with it. But I just didn't get a lot out of this movie. They had some things that they wanted to do in this movie. I did think the hair on fire with the girl was funny.
Yeah, the wig catches fire.
Yeah, the wig catches fire, and also they fall out of the car when he accelerates. I did think the him using his hair grease as like an oil slick in the skating rink.
It's very funny. Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
but man, like him putting all that grease in his hair
was disgusting.
It was disgusting. It looked like it was like a jar of like butter or lard or something like that.
Yeah, it was gross.
That went on very comedically. Yeah. I feel like there's some parts of that movie where I feel like he was just trying to fill a runtime.
Oh, I definitely think that. I definitely think that. But yeah, and then you have all this that he just kind of drives from point A to point B all throughout the movie. He hangs out with his friend Nixer, who honestly is kind of annoying. John Hawkes' character is kind of annoying, I thought. He hangs out with his girlfriend Donna. I like Salma Hayek. She's fine in this and always, nice to look at and all that stuff. But the movie just doesn't do anything. For me, probably my favorite part of the movie was when they do go see Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and there actually is a cameo from Kevin McCarthy, who was the star of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He actually happens to be one of the other patrons that's in there watching the movie with them. And after the credits, after the end credits, there is an additional scene with him. I thought that was cool, but the rest of the movie, the violence that kind of comes out of nowhere at the end, it gets very kind of brutal, and just doesn't do anything. Also, the guy that plays Teddy, Jason Wiles, he was Skippy in Kicking and Screaming. I always think of him as Skippy in Kicking and Screaming. He's the guy that wants to do the trivia, but he is at 11 the entire movie. Yeah. He's like, he's so
grimacing and just like mugging. I think it's interesting because I feel like the first half of the movie was shot entirely in close-ups. I don't know if that was a choice or if they did like pickups and stuff like that. Yeah. But if you watch it after us reviewing it, pay attention to, because like the camera's always like a mid shot or it's like up close a whole bunch, and it's weird.
Does it cut back and forth, mid shot close, close? Like, gosh, the editing in this movie, the cutting is
cut from one close up to another close up to another close up to mid. Yeah. It's like, whoa. And the other thing that was weird was was teabagging a phrase in the 1950s?
I don't think it was, but they do say that in this movie. I remember that. Yeah, when he said that, I was like, I think that's that's anachronistic. Yeah.
I mean, I think there are some things I could like enjoy in this movie. I wish it really focused more on the dude trying to get out of the town, maybe the dude, wanting to join a band, because it seems like that was just something that was just kind of like halfway through. He's like, I guess I'll.
It's like all of a sudden, thin, underdeveloped plot.
All of a sudden, it's like I can play the guitar really well. Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna try out for this band, and then the band is miming to records, and they change.
They changed their style,
Yeah.
and I didn't know if he was trying to make some kind of parallel to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, as though they've almost been replaced by pod people or what. But if he was trying to say that, I think it was a bit of a reach. Like I didn't. It just there's nothing really cohesive about this movie. Like you said, it felt like, I mean, it was a movie made on the cheap. In the 10-minute film school, he talks about it was made in 13 days. And one day of that, because they shot it in California, one day of that, an earthquake happened. So it just destroyed the whole day because it destroyed some of their set or something that they were working on. So a whole day was lost from that. And then he talks about another half a day or maybe full day. He shot a bunch of stuff that they didn't use in the film. So really, that was basically 11 useful days of filming in this movie. They shot it cheap. It looks like a made-for-TV movie. I think they felt like it was enough just to have a hangout movie. But for me, in 2020, it's not enough. It needs to be much more interesting. Probably was more interesting back in 1994 on a Sunday afternoon watching it on Showtime, but not now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which kind of stuff. Because it just doesn't... Like I said, we feel like Robert Rodriguez's fingerprints are on this, but like El Mariachi and Desperado are just like so far superior films. And he shot El Mariachi before he shot this movie. It's just like
for even cheaper.
It's like what happened?
I don't know.
So I don't know.
But I thought it would be interesting because, again, I remembered kind of liking this film, although I do not like it now. But I thought it would be kind of interesting because I didn't think that you had seen this. I figured this is probably the only Robert Rodriguez film that you had not seen. Maybe.
Yeah, and I haven't seen a lot of it, the kids' movies he's done.
Well, yeah, that's true. I actually haven't seen a lot of those either, but discounting those because I don't know that we're the target audience for that.
No.
But of the adult films that he's made, this is probably the only one that you had not seen, which is understandable, and maybe it would have been better off had you not seen it at all. I don't know. But critically, there's like 3 reviews for this on Rotten Tomatoes because, again, it's just kind of an unknown film. They're all favorable. It was 68%. I couldn't find where Roger Ebert ever reviewed it, and it's not in the Leonard Maltin book. So that's all you get, 68% from 3 critics. Take that as you will. But for me,
our reviews, it's bringing it down.
It's a negative. Yeah, it's a do not watch unless you are an absolute Robert Rodriguez completionist and you absolutely must see everything that he's done.
And then you probably want to watch like Shorts and Shark Boy and Lava Girl and the Spy Kids movie. Bedhead. Yeah. And then you'll watch this movie.
Yeah. Save this for last because it's a stinker. All right, moving on.
All right.
Question.
Viewer question. So the viewer question that came in this week to our email address, realshame@gmail.com, is what are some of your favorite iconic movie vehicles? So we're talking about 50s era cars and kart races and road racers. So what are some of your favorite iconic movie vehicles?
All right, so I wrote down basically just 3, and we can go back and forth or whatever. But the first one that came to mind for me was James Bond's Aston Martin.
Interesting.
I'm not a huge car guy like in real life. I mean, I just drive stuff that, as long as it runs, I'm fine with it. I don't want to spend a lot of money on a car. But if I was rich and had all the money in the world to play with, I would love to have an Aston Martin like James Bond drive. And it doesn't matter if it's like a newer Aston Martin like they drive or like the one that Sean Connery has, because I don't think Roger Moore ever really drives one in any of his films. But I know Sean Connery drove one, and Daniel Craig, I guess, drives one. And I can't remember if Pierce Brosnan
drove BMWs.
Okay.
So he drove like a Z3 during the Cuba area of Goldeneye.
Yeah.
And then he drove some BMWs through there, through those movies.
But yeah, that's the first thing that I thought of.
So that's interesting because the first vehicle that comes to my head when we say iconic movie vehicles is the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Okay, well that's also on mine.
So
I think I thought of the Aston Martin because I just recently watched the Bond films, and I was like, I love that car. Okay.
I would, and to your point, I would love a DeLorean.
Oh, I would too.
Ernest Cline, who's a writer, he wrote Ready Player One, He wrote Armada. He wrote the script for Fanboys. Has an electric DeLorean, and that's what I want. I want a DeLorean with an electric engine in it.
Right.
So I don't care if you take it from Tesla or whatever. But that's the car I think would be super cool to own. The other thing is, I don't know if we're gonna go like space or not, but you can't. The Millennium Falcon. I mean, that is like an iconic vehicle, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's Han Solo's, YT freighter that he zips around the Star Wars, the galaxies with, stuff like that. I know I pulled the DeLorean from you.
I was trying to think of like something that wasn't necessarily on planet Earth, like some kind of spaceship. I actually couldn't think of anything, but I guess that just goes to show I don't ever think about Star Wars much. But I agree with the Millennium Falcon. I think that's an awesome ship and very iconic.
I love the X-Wings, the B-Wings. I mean, all the ships in the Star Wars universe are just awesome.
So DeLorean, I thought of that. I thought of the 1989 Batmobile that Michael Keaton drives. I think that car is awesome. I actually like the Tumbler from Batman Begins, but Michael Keaton's Batmobile is infinitely better than that. I just think that Batmobile is awesome. And I think at one point they gave away like a replica of the car or something like that. There was some kind of, I don't know, competition or sweepstakes or something for it. But I remember I was like, man, I would love to have that car. I don't know how practical it is to drive around, but still,
Giant flames.
I think that car, because I'm not a fan of the Tim Burton I'm not really a fan of any of the Batman films prior to Christopher Nolan's Batman films. I think they're okay, some of them.
Yeah.
But I love that Batmobile.
I think you should send us an email to review Batmobiles because I have opinions on those.
Okay.
But we won't get into this now because I want you to send us an email asking us to do that. The other car that came to mind is the Ferrari from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, okay.
That car is sweet. Like I love those 1950s. Like I'm pretty sure it's a Ferrari. It has to be a Ferrari. Those Ferraris are awesome. Like I just remember. I remember that car from that movie. But again, if we were millionaires, rich, I would definitely own one of those for sure.
That is a cool car. I didn't think about that one.
Would love that car. And then we talked about Fled and what we've been watching, and that made me really want like those Ducati, like because Stephen Baldwin's character is all like Ducati 916. He's like it's the Ferrari of motorcycles. Like and like ever since then I was like I want a Ducati. Ducatis are so cool. Never got a Ducati. I had a BMW motorcycle, but never had a Ducati.
Yeah, same thing with like spaceships. I was trying to think of like motorcycles that were really iconic or whatever in movies, and I just couldn't come up with anything.
Well, in the Mission Impossible movie and Rogue Nation, he drives that BMW, that 900, was it 900 SRR or something like that? S900RR or something like that. I forget the name of the motorcycle. But that thing is sweet, that motorcycle. That motorcycle is fast. That's scary fast motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, the Fast and Furious movies have all kinds of crazy, sweet little cars, but again, I'm just not much of a car guy, so unless it's like the DeLorean or something like that, or the Aston Martin, it doesn't really, or the Batmobile, I guess, it doesn't really...
we have the Bullet car from Bullet, the Mustang.
Steve McQueen, yeah.
Steve McQueen. I guess I'm kind of a car guy, so I kind of pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
But there's been a bunch of iconic vehicles, but those are the first ones that pop into my head. And I think the DeLorean's probably the most practical, like maybe the most feasible for me to get at some point. As time goes on, it's probably less feasible. But I think
you can't get the Millennium Falcon.
No,
come on, dude.
But I think I'd actually really want that Ferrari from Ferris Bueller if I could have.
That'd be nice.
Any of them. That would be really
let
cool.
it go out the second floor or whatever into the woods.
Just don't run it in reverse to move the speedometer backwards.
Don't let Cameron kick it because he's angry at his dad.
He is. He should have yelled at him like James Dean did on the stairwell.
You're tearing me apart! Kick the Ferrari. Bye.
All right, is that it?
Sorry, I'm weak. I only got 3.
That's it for iconic vehicles. The cars from Greece are cool. If you have an iconic vehicle that we should have mentioned, send us an email, realshame@gmail.com. If you're watching this YouTube, leave a comment below, start a discussion. That would be super cool. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram. We're at Real Shame on Instagram. If you have a question you want us to answer on air, shoot us an email. We will answer those on air. And we will see you next time as we pull another movie from our list of shame. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.